A lot of people slow down their own improvement process by 3x, thinking they're a lot better than they actually are. Now, confidence can either make or break how fast you rank up, so today I'll go over how to use confidence in an effective way, and not in a super ineffective way where it will take you 3 days to accomplish what you can in 1. The very first thing I want to talk about today is the 7 fundamentals behind becoming a phenomenal Valorant player, because if you understand all fundamentals, it will be way easier to benchmark what skill you actually have. You see, the problem a lot of bad players face is that they're actually fantastic at 1 or 2 of the fundamentals, but they are extremely bad at the remaining 5. This can give a feeling of being a good player, although someone who are okay at all 7 fundamentals will still perform way better than the players who are incredible at 2 and terrible at the remaining 5. The first fundamental is aiming, and this is a skill that naturally develops, so you don't have to use a lot of your brain power to improve it. If you play long hours of ranked, you'll become a better aimer. Of course, that's not to say that playing ranked is the most effective way to improve your aiming abilities, because it isn't. In ranked, you might get to aim at 2 opponents in a singular round on average, making the reps per minute exceptionally low in comparison to something like Deathmatch, Aim Labs, or Kovacs. Under the aiming fundamental, you also have subcategories like crosshair placement, pre-aiming, and recoil control. These subcategories are also very important to practice and improve at if you want to become a top player. However, the scary part about aiming is that if you're good at this fundamental, you might think you're better than you actually are. Aiming is the most important skill to be good at in a game like Valorant, but you won't be able to reach the highest ranks just from this skill alone. So although you might have your moments where you go crazy, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a crazy player, because there is so much more to Valorant than pointing and shooting. Like for example, movement. Movement and aiming does in a way go hand in hand. However, a lot of people have terrible movement when it comes to being a hard target to hit. The most obvious mistake people make is pressing crouch very often. This is a habit that is built when you don't get properly challenged when playing. For example, if you are in a low rank. In low ranks, you often get away with crouching. You might even think it's good because the players you're playing against aren't able to punish this weakness. When you climb the ranks a little bit, you'll notice more and more that crouching makes you easy to eliminate. So what I suggest is playing deathmatch with crouching unbinded. Make it a habit to have good aim and movement without having to duck. Tactics is the third fundamental, and what I mean by tactics is both understanding how to play aggressively and defensively at a high level, as well as being able to read the opponents you're playing. A lot of mechanically gifted players lack a lot of understanding of how to execute a push when playing on the attacker side, slowing down a rush when you're defending, or even just playing a clutch situation. This is because they're used to being able to just aim their way out of these situations, and don't get me wrong, this is going to work until high ascendant, but over that you will get punished for not being smart with your utility, time, and movement. Another fundamental that is often overlooked is communication. Now, people think having good communication is giving full comms like a tier 1 IGL, but this is not the case. Good communication is simply being able to instantly give valuable comms and not talking about useless things that won't have a positive impact on the match you're playing. I also think under the communication fundamental, being the guy on the team who can just have a bit of hope regardless of score will be super valuable. I've had so many games where we've been down 9-3 that I've been able to win just because I vocally let my team know that a comeback is possible by saying, let's at least try. Please also just let people play in clutch situations. Don't backseat game and call out how they should play it. This will, in the majority of cases, make the chance of him or her succeeding way lower. Regardless of the result of the clutch as well, just say good try if it's a good try. If it's a bad try, say nothing. And if they manage to win a clutch, hype them up. It actually goes a long way for their momentum. Utility usage is fundamental 5, and whether you're good with util or not really makes a difference in your overall skill level. Now, being good utility-wise, in my eyes, is just being knowledgeable about what you can and cannot do to make a variety of different plays and, most importantly, win rounds. A lot of people think doing lineups is cringe, but in my opinion, what makes a good player is being able to win. It doesn't really matter how you do it. Additionally, winning rounds by playing lineups makes you, on average, win more games and as a result, rank up faster, meaning you'll play against better players and in return, become better yourself. So by not securing round wins by knowing a lineup or two, you grief your own improvement as a player. Being able to use your util to help your team out as well is something you need to master. Flashing out and smoking are the basics, but there are hundreds of other things utility-wise to master, and the more experience you get with your main agent and its different utility, the better of a player you'll become. Now, if you can combine communication and utility usage at a high level, you'll be so much better than the players who cannot. Having a high level of game sense is also absolutely crucial if you want to reach the top ranks. One of the main issues I see from lower ranked players is how slow they are at rotating, and their understanding of whether or not the opposing team is full committing to a side. When you're slow, it makes it so much harder to win retakes, because you'll often have to make plays that aren't optimal based on the limited time you have. This is more so a low level of decision making rather than game sense, but not being hesitant in your calls is a super valuable skill you really need to practice. I also think a lot of people need to trust their intuition more, especially if you have a lot of hours clocked into the game. Naturally, it can be really hard to follow your intuition if your teammates are telling you to do something that goes against it, but from personal experience, I usually perform perform a lot better when trusting myself compared to what my dead teammates are communicating in my ear. The last fundamental is mentality. Just being able to not waste energy on raging is super important. Now, most players I know who have become good have been unhappy when they've gone down in a round, but they're unhappy with themselves, not unhappy with what their teammates are doing. A common characteristic I have found with players who get stuck is that they rage, but not at themselves. They blame the team, often saying phrases like, "What are you doing?" instead of "What am I doing?" like a lot of my successful friends are saying. Additionally, you need to mentally think about what you did wrong the second you die in a round. This way, you actually reflect upon what you can do better for future rounds. Not critically thinking about how to improve when playing makes it a waste of time if your goal is improvement. Now that I've gone over all these 7 fundamentals, you might have thought to yourself that you're good at all 7, but there's probably 1, 2, or 3 that you feel like are your strengths. If you're able to focus on the remaining 4 fundamentals that are slightly worse than the 3 others and really work on improving them, you'll exponentially improve as a player. The beauty of these 7 fundamentals is that the better you get at each individual one, you'll also see improvement in another one of the fundamentals. For example, if you get a little bit better tactics, your communication will also naturally improve. Or if you get better game sense, your utility usage will also effortlessly get better. Valorant is a team-based game, and this makes it very easy for people to blame their low rank or performance on their teammates. I bet you've all heard the phrase, "I'm ranked gold, but I play like a diamond player." You can mix and match the ranks however you'd like. But this is definitely something you've heard before. Now, the reasoning for them saying they're better than their rank is because they often carry. And the embarrassing thing about this is that these players top frag with 1, 2, or 3 kills and think they're 10 times better than the rank. Now, if you think you're good because you're able to top frag, whether that being gold, diamond, or immortal, that is the wrong mindset to have. Top fragging should be expected. What makes you a good player is winning rounds. And of course, kills impact whether or not you're able to secure round wins. But I can top frag a match and have less impact on round wins than someone who has 30% less kills than me. Of course, that's not to say that you're not rewarded for top fragging, because you get way more RR the more kills you have. However, you need to adapt a mentality around winning rounds and not just getting kills. Another thing I often see with bad players who think they're good is that they say, "I would have been good if I just had a 240Hz monitor or a better PC." This is the same mentality as the people who either played football, tennis, or any other sport for that matter have, who say they would have been the GOAT if they didn't have their knee injury. The majority of people have an extremely biased view of their own skill level. Thankfully, skill in Valorant is extremely trackable. The rank system, although far from perfect, is a good indicator of how good of a player you actually are. Even with bad teammates, a bad PC, or monitor, you should be able to reach Immortal if you play every day. Reaching Immortal is where you objectively start becoming good, and reaching it is possible almost regardless of circumstances. Players who think they're good are also often scared to go over their own games with their friends. This is something I also saw when I played tennis doubles at a serious level back in the day. My mate was uncomfortable watching himself back. He didn't enjoy finding his mistakes. Maybe it made him insecure seeing the mistakes he made. Seeing the mistakes you make after the match has happened can be frustrating, whether it be tennis or Valorant. But being aware of the mistake and looking at what you could have done differently will be 10 times better when it comes to improvement compared to just neglecting it. If you want to become good at anything, you need to be comfortable with the fact that sometimes you will look terrible. And if you can, instead of getting embarrassed by it, learn from it, and you will reap extremely comfortable rewards as a result.